The Cardano blockchain has just undergone one of the most significant upgrades Cardano has seen to date. It's the Vasil hard fork, and it's just given the whole ecosystem a massive boost. So who was Vasil? And what is the Vasil upgrade? How did the hard fork happen? And what new features are now available to developers and ADA holders? But the first question, who was Vasil? Cardano's latest upgrade is named after a man named Vasil Dabov. Vasil was a Bulgarian-born mathematician and a longtime ambassador of Cardano. A close personal friend of Charles Hoskinson, Vasil was also a lover of nature, planting thousands of trees across the globe over his lifetime. When he unfortunately passed in 2021, Charles decided to remember Vasil's memory in blockchain by naming the hard fork Combinator event after his friend. So what is a hard fork? A hard fork involves a radical change to the protocol of any blockchain, causing a splitting of the chain into two branches. In some blockchains, this can be caused by two miners minting a block simultaneously, accidentally forking the chain into two separate, incorrect chains. In most cases, though, hard forks are intentionally caused by developers trying to update code, fix bugs, or move on community-voted governance decisions. In Cardano's case, hard fork Combinator events are planned and scheduled upgrades that are pushed out to the nodes by IOHK. This one, however, was a little different to previous hard forks on Cardano in that it was triggered by external factors, not by IOHK themselves. In Vasil's case, the hard fork event was triggered when three conditions were met. More than 75% of stake pools were updated to the latest node version 1.35.3. Over 80% of all liquidity providers have updated their nodes to version 1.35.3. All of the top 10 dApp developers have updated nodes, smart contracts, and website scripting. Once all three criteria were met, Cardano hard forked into the upgraded Vasil chain at the end of that epoch. So what did this update bring to Cardano? Every hard fork event on Cardano to date has been transformative to the chain. The Mary hard fork introduced native tokens. Shelly brought staking. The Alonzo hard fork brought smart contracts. What does the Vasil hard fork promise, and why does it matter? Since we're in the Basho era, it's all about scaling and making things easier for Cardano developers. Cardano's partner, Emergo, said that the Vasil hard fork will bring numerous upgrades to network capacity and Cardano's smart contract programming language, Plutus, which enables Cardano decentralized application development. Vasil aims to tackle all of these different areas with major updates to network throughput, improvements to the Plutus smart contract language for dApp developers, reducing the latency of block transmission, and the introduction of diffusion pipelining to the Cardano blockchain. Essentially, the focus of the Vasil hard fork is to improve the Cardano network for all of its users and also upgrade the development experience for Cardano developers using Plutus to create their decentralized applications. But if you want to really be specific, the Vasil update contains 3 Cardano improvement proposals, or CIPs, and the feature we mentioned earlier called diffusion pipelining. Let's take a look at each one in detail now. Cardano improvement proposals included in the Vasil upgrade are 31, 32, 33, and 40. And they're mostly centered around one tiny bit of information. Literally, they're called datums. And these tiny-like packets of data attached to transaction outputs are going to make a huge improvement on the chain. Now, I wanted to make this next deep dive into each of these CIPs as thorough as possible while still being easy enough to understand. So if you still want to read more, the full link to each CIP abstract will be in the description below. CIP 30 involves creating a new type of way to access these datums from the blockchain without having to use any ADA. This involves the creation of reference input, which allows developers to look at output without sending it, therefore reducing chain congestion, improving transaction speed, and increasing concurrency. CIP 32 is all about streamlining the way datums can be attached to outputs. Previously, only hashes of the datums were attached to outputs, with the full data sitting on the spending transaction itself. This created unnecessary complication and at times off-chain communication between both sides of the transaction. With CIP 32, these datums can be placed directly inside outputs. No hashes required. This will make it so much easier for dApp developers to point to inputs directly. Leveraging off the updates brought by CIPs 31 and 32, CIP 33 is a developer-focused upgrade involving what's called reference scripts. This one is a little easier to explain. Consider the world of programming. Certain expressions, certain functions, and certain sections of code get repeated. A lot. All that code takes up previous space which could be used for more complex and feature-filled scripting. Reference scripts involve hosting some of the more commonly used Plutus expressions on the blockchain itself. This allows developers the ability to reference the script on-chain, making transactions smaller and cheaper. CIP40 is another developer upgrade, optimizing how Plutus scripts are collateralized to prevent smart contract execution failure. The biggest upgrade in terms of increasing transaction speed and scaling the blockchain comes from diffusion pipelining. Diffusion pipelining streamlines the propagation of information about newly produced blocks across the network. This enhancement allows the distribution of block information before the block is fully validated on a node, making it possible to parallelize block validation and distribution. The ultimate goal of this upgrade is to ensure that all newly created blocks are shared to every stake pool in the entire network within 5 seconds, or the maximum amount of delay allowed based on current worldwide internet speeds. This allows more headroom in the consensus, later giving the entire chain a boost in performance. The update will also lead to an increase in the size of the block, allowing more transactions and associated data written to the ledger. The final result is that these combinations of improvements and optimizations will lead to a much faster and scalable network. So that's the high-level technical overview of the upgrade. But what can we test drive right now? What dApps are taking advantage of the new features? And will we notice any of the on-chain performance upgrades right away? Well, I think since the Alonzo Hard Fork Combinator event, we've learned to temper our expectations that a light switch is going to be turned on and all of these new dApp features come online instantly. It took months after Alonzo before even the first DEX appeared, and almost 12 months later, we still only have a couple dozen dApps on mainnet. Many developers will still need time to integrate these new features into their applications, and testing takes time. In terms of performance on-chain, again, I have to remind you of the early days on DEXs like SundaySwap, where some transactions literally took days. In the background though, IOHK was tweaking parameters to optimize the chain's consensus layer. Epoch by epoch performance improved, congestion reduced, and we were back to 60-second swaps in no time. It's going to be the same thing for Vasil. IOHK again said they will be monitoring post-fork and tweaking parameters to strike the balance between block size and propagation speed. So, while you may not necessarily see faster transactions right away, the performance improvements will become apparent at the start of every new epoch from here on out. Having said all that, Vasil was mostly about preparing the chain for scaling while giving developers more tools and access to information. So everyone, that was the rundown of the Vasil Hard Fork Combinator event and everything that it's bringing to Cardano. I'm excited. I'm sure most of you are as well. If you found this video useful or helpful, please hit that like. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.